It should be going up.
How do you get a background?
There's a thing in the back, on the thing that says live background. You need a green screen. You need a green screen.
Okay, there you go. Thanks. Now I won't have to worry about doing that.
All right, I think we are live.
All right. When I build the next studio, I'm gonna had a really nice studio, and then this design, I'll have a video studio behind it, so I'll have a green screen and
There
be
you
able to
go.
I'm making videos.
It is live. Okay. Listen, it wasn't showing me whether or not it was live or not.
Let's see.
All right. Well, my name is Ron, and I'm talking with Don Schiff. Most people would know him from when he played with Rocket Scientists and Lana Lane and his solo stuff. And just want to talk with him about and what it's his roots and his thoughts of the newest, the latest thing of being in lockdown.
Yeah.
I'm curious personally as when did you start and who was your influence?
Well, started a long time ago, being 65 now. But when I grew up in a family of music teachers. My dad was a professional musician and also a music teacher, and so was my mom. So I naturally rejected being a musician for all those years. And my dad used to come home when I was in elementary school, and he goes, here's a trumpet. Why don't you play the trumpet? And so I pick it up and play it a little bit, but I didn't like it. So I go, no, I don't want to play that, Dad. And you go, well, okay. So a couple months would go by, and he goes, here's a clarinet. Why don't you learn to play the clarinet? So went through a bunch of instruments, and finally he decided, well, what would you like to play? And at that time, I really liked the Beverly Hillbillies. And so I figured, well, they got a banjo in that. Why don't I try banjo? So he bought me a banjo, and that, didn't quite do it for me. And then I took acoustic guitar for a while, and then there was many years of piano. We always had a piano at the house, and he kept that up till I was probably in the 7th grade, just going through instruments. One of the most for me embarrassing was I think I was in the 6th or 7th grade, and he brought home a baritone horn, which I wasn't really tall in the 7th grade. So to me, carrying this baritone horn was like having a tuba. And I thought, oh yeah, this is a real girl eye catcher. And so I rejected that, and the trombone. And then finally, maybe in the 8th or 9th grade, he finally said, I get it. You don't want to be a musician. You don't want to play anything. But the last thing I would just ask is, why don't I get you a bass and, see if you like it. If you don't like that, then I'm going to leave you alone, and, you go on about your way. So I went, oh, okay. So he brought home the electric bass, and it was like, well, where's this been all my life? This is nice. And he said, and on top of that, there aren't many bass players in the area. You'll work a lot. So that's how I started. And I would get on these gigs with the big band era. I don't know, most of us, even people my age probably never heard of Buddy Morrow. Maybe the closest you'd hear of is Tommy Dorsey. Of course, Tommy Dorsey was dead, but the library lived on, and they had a conductor that took it over named Warren Covington, and he was famous from the big era. I think his big hit was T for Two on the trombone, and he took over that orchestra, and that's where I learned to read. You know, the bass parts are pretty simple, and my dad said, if you're going to be a working musician, got to learn to read. So that's how it started. Sorry, I went on a tangent. Forgot your question.
That's all right. So what was your first rock band that you did
Oh, okay,
or
yeah.
involved in?
And influences. So I loved Yes when the Fragile Yes came out, and Chris Squire, and that just blew me away. I just thought his sense of melodic bass playing and that crispy sound that he got with the Rickenbacker. Prior to that, my dad had gotten me a precision bass, which I loved, and it had that precision bass sound. And I went, wow, you know, now this Rickenbacker sounds like the low end of a piano, nice and crisp, clean, deep. So I went to Philadelphia and bought a Rickenbacker bass. And what's so funny about that is I lived in Wilmington, Delaware, which is about 45 minutes from Philadelphia, but I was kind of a paranoid kid. And I thought, I might get mugged. People will steal my money. So I used to wear a pair of shorts underneath my pants, and I'd put my money in my wallet in my shorts underneath my pants, and went to the big city of Philadelphia to buy a Rickenbacker bass. And it was pretty hysterical, because then I'd have to go behind time to pay. I'd have to go find a little area or a cubby hole area where nobody was, and unzip my pants and pull my money out and buckle up my pants and pay for my Rickenbacker bass. And then at that time, I also loved the band Chicago. I loved can't think of his name at the moment, but he just had a great jazz melodic sense, as well as Jim Fielder from Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And then when Tower of Power came out, that was huge influence. So those three, and Paul McCartney, those were like my major bass influences that I just would take in. One of the biggest influences that I didn't know about, but was affected by, was James Jamerson. And I just always loved those soulful Motown lines. So I bundled all that up and took it inside and put my own twist on it, and just joined bands with friends. I can remember my friend, he played drums, but he didn't have a drum set. So he had the Quaker Oat boxes for toms and a Christmas box or whatever. He had a big box for a kick drum and had the hardware to beat on them, and later got drums, and was fortunate enough. There were quite a few talented musicians in my area that were just, they knew how to jam. They weren't emulating, well, they would emulate people that they like or inspired by, but they had their own ability to express what it is that they had to offer. And they just knew how to jam. And from that just really brought out a style for me of how I wanted to play and what I had to say. And that's how I started. And then I would get calls to go out on jobs. Maybe this story will lead you into another question. So at one point, I got a call at when I was in high school, to play for Barbra Streisand's half-sister, Rosalind Kind. And she was particularly famous in the East Coast New York area. And so when it was time to graduate, her manager called my dad and asked if I would do a job with them, but it was in Las Vegas and I'd have to go on tour. And my dad said, well, perfect timing. He's out of school, go. So that's what got me to Vegas, out of Delaware.
Yeah. Oh, Mark, our buddy Mark is in the room, and he says, were you into the Grease band, Alan Spinner?
Doesn't sound familiar.
I guess he just said.
Boy, no, I can't say that I recollect that. Darn it, sorry.
Oh, I guess going up closer to, I guess, when you met Mark and Eric, when was that?
Oh, not good. It was in the 90s, the early 90s, I believe. And I used to work a lot out of a studio called Woodcliff in Sherman Oaks. And my writing partner, Tully Winfield, was the owner's wife. Frank Rosato was the engineer. And it was just a beautiful studio, not a major one, but an incredible tracking recording room. And Rocket Scientist was doing an album there. And the owner engineer, Frank Rosato, said, oh, you need a really good bassist, and he also plays the stick. You ought to give this guy a call. So I always joke and say, oh, the band was called Rocket Scientist. So I went to go audition. And when you went to the studio, the door said push. And so I pushed on the door, and most people pulled on the door first. And so they went, that guy's rocket science material. He went through the door the correct way. But in reality, they just called me, and I came over, and I imagine they just felt I influenced the sound of the band from those times forward, that they then said, you know what, you're an honorary member, you're in. So that's how I met Mark and Eric, and then started touring with them, and that became the nucleus of the band. And we'd have different drummers from time to time. Everybody seemed to be very busy at that time, so we were able to keep the three of us as a core and add different guitarists as needed. And I think at one time we had Mike Alvarez played cello for us one time.
I remember that.
Yeah, a lot of wonderful people have played in the band and become good friends. And that's and incredibly nice. I know you had Mark on last time, and just such a wonderful, wonderful man. Giving, generous, wonderful players, and Eric, astounding producer. I remember all the different studios that he's had, going over to his home studio, going over to, I think it was called Walden West out in the Valley, when he had a big studio there with Lana Lane. It was beautiful, had a entryway, like a green room that was fun, and then you go spill out to the studio. And just always so impressed with what Eric could do in the studio, not only as a player and a writer, but he really just has incredible ears. And I was extra impressed, being a stick player, being a bass player. So he produced, and Think Tank Media put out Peering Over Clouds for me, and done a lot of sessions for people. And you go, okay, I really satisfied with what I did on People's Difference recordings. And then the album would come out, and you'd get it at the store, and you go, oh, okay. But if they ask my opinion, you should always turn up the bass a little. It's the foundation. You want to have something to sit on. And when Eric produced Peering Over Clouds for me, it didn't even enter my mind. It was beautiful and perfect. It's like, yes, everything sits on the bass for me. And he's just intuitive. Whoever he works for, he magically knows what to do. Man's a genius.
Yeah, I first found out about Rocket Scientist when just right after Brutal Architecture came out, and I was looking through. At the time, I guess you guys were it was on the Kinesis label, their catalog, and I saw the name, and I was like going, and then I think it said in the description, the Southern California prog band. I was like, oh, cool. So I think I'll pick that up, and since then, I've gotten every single thing that you guys put out, including the box set. When
and the hat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with you and the bowler.
Yeah, everybody. I think we had one hat that we just put on each of us and took a separate picture. I forget.
Yeah, I got that one, and then each one. The box set. I mean, for me, on a budget, it was kind of expensive, but it was like I knew it was something that I had to have, and
thank you.
And I like that it comes in the old VHS. I think they call it the clamshell box or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
and it has all the stuff, including like um, the 2007 set you guys did, where you selected different songs to redo, and I think what was it? Mark told me that he had to go. He didn't have any more copies, so he had to find them on eBay so he can give it to his kids, so that at least that they have some, a keepsake. And it's like that's kind of funny in a way that it's like, okay, you got to go to another source in order to get stuff for you. And I've seen a lot of bands that have like one band that I talked with a while back, for to get used to this setup. Glass Hammer, they're out of Tennessee,
Yeah.
and I showed him a poster of his first album, and he says, "Oh my God, I can't believe that those still exist." And I said, "Well, I found it on eBay. It
Yeah.
came with their CD because I couldn't find that CD anywhere, and it came that way." And he says, "Wow." He says, "If I could get a hold," I told him, I said, "If you really want it," I said, it's just something. I think it's kind of important that the band itself has their own stuff, so that they can put it on the wall, and show it off, that way. But
Yeah. Eric and
I've
Mark,
been,
incredible archivists. They have everything.
yes, yeah, Mark was telling me about all the stuff that he recorded over the years, and not only with you guys, but with when he went on to like that. And it's like, I mean, my goodness, it's like that's dedication right there, and someone that really cares about music. That's what I gravitate, and that's why I was telling you, that Thousand Oaks show that I went to. That was the first and unfortunate only time I saw you guys live. I didn't get the chance to see you when you guys did. I don't remember what it was called, but it was in New Jersey. Past few years.
Oh, was that Rozfest?
No, I think it was Prague Stock. I think.
Okay.
In New Jersey, and I missed that. And I think you guys had it billed as the last show you guys were going to do.
Oh yeah, that was the last show.
Yeah.
Boy, that was fun. That was a wonderful show, wonderful event, really well put on, organized, high pro glow. You should have been
Hey,
there.
I know. Mark did say that they recorded it, so he said at some time they'll,
Yeah,
put it
yeah,
together.
you'll get to see it. Yeah, I look
Yeah,
forward. I mean, Eric
it
and
would be.
go ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it'd be great to see that, especially for the people, such as myself, that didn't go to it, but because it's a tough thing being in a prog band that you can't get to every city because it's just not financially
Right, not feasible.
feasible. But I was telling Mark and a couple of the other people that a fantastic thing is if there's a day that we're closer to when the pandemic is clear, but not, I was thinking is if someone can do some sort of a live broadcast where, band make sure that everybody is clear and they can put on a show. Maybe they stay 6 feet apart, but have someone have aim a camera and send it out, broadcast it over the internet, it's like so that people can see you guys play live, even though you're not going to have a true studio audience, you're going to, it'd be like the next best thing.
That would be fun, especially at a stage like they had at that last event. It was huge, easy to stay 6 feet apart, and they had cameras all over it, all different angles, and Eric and Mark are very fastidious about making things sound not only great but look great. So yeah, I look forward to that.
I saw the pictures of the different pictures of that event, and they captured them, and it looked really beautiful,
And there was one picture that I laughed at when I saw that it was a shot of me, and it was the background was one of Eric's solo albums, and it has this alien with his hand over his ears like that, and it just looked like I'm playing it too loud. Beautiful pictures, though, and they're also really meticulous about getting a great album cover. So also the artwork is incredible. A lot of it by, I won't even try and pronounce his name, but he's a famous artist from Poland, I believe, and a lot of the album covers are from him. That one that's on my Peering Over the Clouds is from him, like kind of the lobster car going toward the moon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, especially the, uh, the album cover for Oblivion Days. That's
Mm-hmm.
a very intricate, different things going on that. And I was like, and that's where I know, your first two albums had a certain sound, and then when you got to Oblivion Days, that were
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
things were, how do they say, like in Spinal Tap, it goes to 11.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It was that was a period of time that you guys were with using the guitar player Arion for a while.
Yeah.
And
He's tall.
yeah, I've seen pictures of him, and I'm like going, wow. It's like I bet you he's like looking down at everybody, and up there, and it's like, I mean, it's got its perks, but then it's disadvantages, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But every time I hear, when I hear you play, and I've seen your YouTube videos, and it's like I'm thinking to myself, it's like, this guy here has such talent that, you know, I you need it's like more, whenever I mention about a stick player, everybody always thinks of Tony,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like going, well, Tony's more high profile. That's, and I think he's been doing it um maybe since like the early 70s or something like that.
Sure. The stick was invented or came out in mass production in 74. So we probably all got our sticks around the same time. I think I got mine in 75.
And it's like I just think, I like to, my goal in these type of shows is to get whoever comes on, get them a little more profile,
Mhm.
so they could, I mean, some, you know, like when I had Mark on, I think Mark is possibly one of my all-time favorite singers.
Yeah.
He's just got that timeless quality to him that,
Mhm.
and I
Did you
mean, he could sing.
Avalon that he and I did?
Yes,
Boy, that was a lot
I
of
now something like that. Now that I thought was amazing that you guys took one song and then it's almost like you just took it apart and then put it back together, but
yeah.
in a slightly different fashion, but where you knew it was a song, but it was almost like I don't know, it sounded more angelic because of I believe what you were doing the cello.
Yeah, and what was fun that I really love about working with Mark and Eric on any project is that they want you to explore whatever you wanted to do, all ideas. And I thought, oh well, this will be fun. I mean, I love live strings, and I like to blend them with samples. But I like that, like I always say, I'm not a really great cello player or viola player, but my forte is I know how to make the bow go that way, and I have a decent vibrato. So if I go, step at a time, nice and easy, and then mix it in with a really nice, perfect, pristine sample, my inability with its pristine nice makes a really nice orchestral sound. So I like to add those things into it. And that's what we did with Mark on that Avalon. And that was a lot of fun. Same with a lot of the rocket scientist ones. We have a video, and my mind, I don't really remember anything. One of the funnier things when I'm in the studio is I'll do a pass on a chorus and they'll go, "That's great. Let's put that on the choruses." And I go, "Well, you're going to have to re-roll it again because I have no idea what I just played." So there's a video in particular, and I think there was a soap opera actress in it. And we came out of the fog and out of the smoke, and I played cello on that one. Well, it's that song, whatever the name of it is, I don't remember. But Eric and Mark, they're just always so inventive of, "Oh, yeah, let's try that, do that. Let's see how that works." Beauty of music, why I love music, is to be able to express myself not only on from a bass point of view, but from the sticks, which are incredible invention. It just really broadened my horizons on what a bass can do, especially being able to tap, play higher up in the melody to get some rhythm going, but also to be able to pluck and strum at the same time. That really opened up space. This last video that I did, just for people to jam with me, and interesting if people look at it a different way, is the beginning of it is just all the stick by itself, and it sounds like a clavinet and a bass together. But how that helps my bass playing is that a great part of playing is when you don't play, the in between spaces, in between notes, and to get really tight rhythm like that, it's nice to be able to have a chordal part to fit in between. It just makes the bass playing so tight. It's what sticks have given me a new perspective on, and to create great melody lines, to be able to really hold down the fort on the bottom end and then play a beautiful higher part rhythmically that makes very memorable bass parts.
Yeah, when I first heard this stick, I don't even remember when it was. I actually say maybe it was with it was either you guys, rocket scientists, or it was something on Peter Gabriel. I don't remember which one it was, but that's when I heard that. I was like going, "This is an amazing thing." Is that, what are they? What instrument is this? So I, of course, curiosity. I go online at the time and check, and it wasn't that much stuff going on. So it's like, over the years, just read about it and find, it's like just all this, inventive instruments, right up there. That's right up there with like the mellotron. It's like,
Yeah.
it's taking something else, two or three things or something like that, putting them together so it can create the sounds that you really want to do.
It's quite an astounding invention, and the way that I play it and the way that it's come about, mainly from bass players, that wasn't the intention of the inventor Emmett. And he just wanted a full range instrument that was more like a piano, and able to play bass lines or lower lines. He didn't look at it really as like a bass and guitar. And when I think in 1975, I got it, and I lived in Las Vegas at the time, and I'd drive up to Los Angeles to take a lesson with Emmett. And for me, being a professional bassist, I didn't have time to really think about what I was just thinking about what do I needed to do, and I needed to be able to cover bass parts immediately. So that's the approach that I took. And later on, of getting to be friends with Emmett just said, after a while, I wasn't sure who was getting the lesson. You took it in a different approach than his intention, and he was just, "Well, keep on going," and I did, and it just became in my head, even when I play higher up on any instrument, it's all just bass playing. It's just higher melodies, but it's all to me about the intricacy of locking in with a melody and keep a foundation of a bass going, but rhythmically like drums. And beauty of the instrument, the stick answered it. When I was a teenager and I was playing my Rickenbacker bass, I used to think in my head, for some reason, I think one day there's going to be something invented that I will gravitate to, but I had no idea what it was. And then when the stick happened, I went, oh, that was it. Nice premonition.
Right, right. Yeah. Do you have anything on your horizon that you, besides your videos that you've done on YouTube?
Yeah, there's a nice album that will be coming out next year with a group of musicians from England. And they, in the 80s, were a successful band called Flip. And they just reorganized, and I get a call to play on their recording. And I always wanted to go to Abbey Road Studios. It was kind of a dream. And I went, oh, this is incredible. And they're from England. And well, my notes made it to Abbey Road Studios while I stayed right here in Napa and packed their bags. So got close, but they are incredible producers, songwriters. And that album I'm particularly looking forward to. I've done a lot of albums, and every once in a while, one just pops out that'll be like, well, I really look forward to playing that one over and listening to it. I didn't write the songs. I just got to enjoy them as I got to play on them and put my influence on them. It was kind. One of the writers was saying, you know, I'm giving everybody credit on this for writing because what you've done influenced the song so much. And boy, that's a huge compliment, I think, when somebody feels that much about your playing that they want to give you writing credit. They don't have to. So that one will come out. Then anything like you were saying, possibly the rocket scientist video. That would be. I look so forward to that one. That was really well rehearsed project. Going to look great. Going to sound great. I'm just going to keep writing and recording. In the music industry, how you make money now, it's a tough one. When you get like less than a third of a cent per spin. I think I was reading a funny article that said, how many streams do you need to at least make poverty level? And so they were saying poverty level is like $11,000 a year, and there's millions of streams. And I just thought, okay, well, you know, I look at it as it's nice to get your music out there for people to be able to listen to. That's what I concentrate on now. I still have a lot to say, a lot that I've done, and I would just like everybody to have the opportunity to hear it. So I make my videos at home. I like the new idea of people being able to jam along with me. What the fun of it is, you get to create a groove, but you don't have to worry about creating a melody. You just put the pocket together, and people can jam along with it. You can learn a lot by doing that. I learned most of developing my style and my theories by just being able to play with different people. And you teach yourself just by going, oh, that sounds nice. I wonder what that is theoretically. And then you learn about it. I used to call certain notes I play pretty notes to play in this kind of a situation. And that was my term for it. But there's actual real terms for those color notes, they're called, major sevens, thirds, sixes. And so eventually you teach yourself so that you can learn to communicate with other musicians. But for me, the priority was to be a player, be able to express yourself totally, what you're feeling inside spiritually, and being able to tell a story, say something that people can feel, as opposed to just blurting out a bunch of notes that work in a scale.
Right. Are you got, speaking of rocket scientists, is there anything that they're doing individually or something that you would like to do again with them, even if it's not rocket scientists?
Yeah, anything. They are incredibly creative individuals, each of them. So anything that they do, would be great. I know Mark and I are working on a few little things just to play much like we did before. Eric is incredibly busy, has a lot of album projects that he's been asked to produce. So anytime something comes my way that he can involve me with, I'm always delighted. I'm sure something will come up. I don't know of anything quite yet, but I know he's busy enough, something will come up. Right. And then there's a screenwriter that I've known for many, many years, Pat Duncan. And he wrote one of my favorite movies, Mr. Holland's Opus. And I've scored a couple of his films back in the 90s. And he's a little older than I am, and married he didn't marry, had a child. And so now he's at home baking bread and likes to bake and still writing up a slew. Still a screenwriter, but he decided to take a little different something that he does, and he started a children's songs for his little girl, and we've been having a blast writing those. So he'll send me the story or the lyrics, and then I will write music to them. They're on Spotify. There's one in particular called Firefighter that's a lot of fun. We're doing one now about kids taking a poo. So it'll be the there's Halloween and Christmas stuff. So that's something else that, in life, you never know what you're going to end up doing. And I just love music. So all kinds of stuff from rocket scientists to film scores to pop albums, my videos. There's just so much to do. And I'm just going to be busy till I drop. Whether it makes any money, secondary, in this day and age of how you make money at, I don't know. Used to be able to tour a lot and make a nice living doing that. Used to be able to make a nice living doing sessions, but all that's turned around. So it drills you down to the core of, why do you play? Are you an artist and you're going to do it regardless, or was money the motivation? So for me, it's what I do. I have longevity on my side because I'm not going to stop. And
right. Yeah. That's what I look up at when I see music. It's like, musicians, it's like, are they doing it because they want to make money, or are they doing it for, like you were saying, because it's something that comes out of you that, you need to express, and you can tell especially nowadays with music that's coming out, especially in the mainstream, that it's almost like they're going through the motions, it's like, and if they're not directly copying, there's like a certain template style of songs, and it seems to be, I hear a lot of them, that through movies where it's like, it's more, I mean, they're spiritual, but it's almost like they're like, I mean, you can obviously pick what part of, in the movie, when this uplifting song is going to come on,
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And it's like, but then few movies down the line, there's that same moment, it's like it's like, kind of, it's an overkill, it's like every moment is going to be uplifting moment, and it's like, I just think, to me, enjoyable music, no matter what the genre is, is the artist or the band putting their heart into it,
Yeah.
or are they're just there for the paycheck,
Yeah. Well,
and you can obviously tell who's in it for a paycheck and who's in it for the love of the music.
Yeah.
And
because as soon as money becomes involved, then there's more than the artist involved, and then therefore producers get hired because they have track records of things that sold, and because things have a track record, there's a template for it as to why it was successful and what that sounds like. And so one of my favorite bands when they came out was Chicago, when they were the Chicago Transit Authority, and I thought, wow, that's so unique and great. And in my opinion, as their albums came out from that, it was, well, we're going to hire a producer that's has a track record, and now you're going to be the rock ballad band, and
Right.
took the soul out of it for me. And the person that produced that and made them sound like did a great job of it. It obviously sold well, beautiful sound, but just not the original heart or impetus of what attracted me to that band.
Right.
That's what happens. You get money involved, and then it looks for a track record, which involves a template, and you shoot for that. Same with films; they all go by templates. The successful ones, just the way that goes. Money gets involved; it takes a little different direction.
Yeah, like is it money gets involved and it takes away the unique quality of what that band started as, and and then but at the same time you don't want the band to stay. You want them to evolve, and you want the artists to evolve, but evolve where it's like where you're staying within the art, and,
Like you said, you
and
want the art to evolve, but not it to become more produced or more polished. There's that certain core that resonated within each of us that said, "Oh, wow, this is unique, and I really like it." For that to evolve is great, and maybe not so easy, because you get a taste of success and you go, "I want to keep that going." Might be a different direction than the art or artist intended.
sounds like something's dinging over there.
Uh, that would be me. Oh, nice. There's a horn player. Let me turn it off so we won't be dunged. Bob Henderson, an incredible sax player. As I in this trailer park for the moment while we're building our house, I met him here, just kind of serendipitously, going, "Wow, this guy is great." And so made that one of those last videos I did with him featuring him, and he's in Louisiana at the moment, and that's what that thing was, asking, "How you doing?" So I'll have to call him back later and say, "How are you doing?" Look forward to coming back to do some more. I just wrote another song or tune that I thought he would be perfect for. So look forward to that. And nowadays, I used to think all I wanted to do was play bass, 4 strings, not too much to worry about. And then it was, well, you got to learn to write, learn to sing a little bit. Now you have to have a studio, and that's only half of it. So you buy all the stuff so you can record the tracks, but then you have to know how to record your tracks really well, like in a professional tracking studio. And then you have to know how much do you do to then send it to the major studio that's then going to compile it and engineer it and master it. It's a lot to learn, whereas before you just had to be a great player. Now you got to be a great player and a lot of other things, which I'm not complaining about. I really enjoy the knowledge and applying it. At least now, when I create my parts, when I send them out, they sound exactly like I wanted them to sound, in my heart, rather than an engineer's interpretation, which may take it in a different direction and not really express the tone of something that you create is equal in amount to what you played. And you could play something that has some really grit and fire to the bass line, but in the end product, if it's rounded out and made smooth, it doesn't match the intent anymore. So that's very annoying to me. So it's kind of a neat age and where you get to control the whole ball of wax there before you send it out.
Right. Well, I was watching earlier today. Whenever I'm on YouTube, I like to watch different musicians where they do their lockdown videos, where they have all the different band members
Yeah.
pre-record their parts and they put it up. And one of them, um, Amy Hagar, he and his newest band, they recorded a whole lockdown album. And what they did is they used their iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
They recorded each of their parts on their iPhones. I guess they send it to their producer and have them use Pro Tools,
Yeah.
whatever, and stick the parts together. And they had them do different takes so they can find the best take, and and it was just amazing that this little tiny phone is now what people can record on.
I love that. I received
And
different lenses for it. Uh, love that.
yeah, you could do, yeah, I mean, not only can you do for your video, just recording your audio, and they even did on one of their they're calling the album Lockdown 2020, and it's a bunch of cover tunes, and one that they did was Heroes.
Mhm.
And he was doing Sammy was doing it with his camera, and people were asking, why are you so close? He says, I had to get close enough so I could see what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was just amazing that we're in a day and age that um almost like the studios are going to be completely obsolete. Everybody's going to do it on their iPhone,
yeah,
send it to their producer, or the band will become their own producers, and maybe
yeah.
the producer will be obsolete,
Well, good and bad. I mean, there are.
Right.
He's a good producer. Hans Zimmer was saying the future of movie scoring will be some guy putting sounds together on his phone. I don't know if it'll get that simple, but the idea is correct. I love this and embrace this day and age where I can do so much visually with my phone and then go into Final Cut Pro on my computer and do colorization, do my editing. Uh, it's a wonderful time to be in music and entertainment and production.
Well, yeah, especially right now while we're in the pandemic, we can for you the musician, you can still produce your music for us the consumers to buy, but you're doing it in a completely different fashion than you did it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, now
I,
it's like, and it might be whatever the musician learned while being in this lockdown is going to be for the future
yeah,
of
yeah,
how,
things are done.
and it's
I remember going to the studio to record some of my music and going, oh, I got to buy a roll of tape. Ooh, $180 for 15 minutes. That better be a good 15 minutes. And
right.
now, oh, it's just so nice not to be able to count the pennies by the minutes, by the speed of the reel. God, unlimited. And I can do all my editing. It's lovely. I even
Oh,
make uh, just videos, just funny ones for myself. Lately my style looks like it comes out to be like Benny Hill, where I kind of speed up the camera and do silly stuff.
right.
Fun.
And then you got this thing Zoom where it's like can do these type of things,
Hmm.
it's just so amazing. The technology, I'm still kind of getting used to all the different things that you can do. I mean, right now I'm not. I mean, it's mostly for patients and remembering stuff is video editing.
Hmm.
To make those fancy looking YouTube videos. I couldn't do that. And I'm not even going to attempt that. So it's like I like to have my stuff unedited, just right there for everybody to see, whereas like I market this thing as this is a conversation. This is not an interview where I'm going to take bits and pieces out, me asking the question, you answering it. I don't know. I get personally as the viewer, I get bored of it
Hmm.
because it seems like the interviewers asked almost always the same kind of question, and it's like, and then if it depending on how much of a profile the artist is, how many times are they going to hear that same question within a calendar year,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, you're going to ask me this, okay, what did I use on this last studio album, things like, it's like, you know, that's why I like conversations where it's, it goes where it goes. And
Yeah. Absolutely. And I like those. I I'm not famous enough to where I could even begin to dream of being put out by somebody asking me a question or something that I've lived. Um, that's my story. I really enjoy it, and everything that I've done. I I don't get recognized all that much, but I have gone to the airport where somebody comes up and goes, "Aren't you Don Schiff?" And my gosh, I'm delighted.
Right.
Sit down and interview them, going, "Oh, how did you hear about me? This doesn't happen all that often." And
Right.
you want
It
your
is.
music and art out there so much that it's recognizable. It's a pleasure to me. Somebody asked me for my autograph. My gosh, absolutely. Why? I just happen to have a pen right here.
Yeah, I really, it's like I've been really lucky to be able to talk to a bunch of uh, amazing musicians so far, and down to earth, and I learn a lot of things from just about every one of you guys out there. And then I have friends that are so immersed into music that it's like, you know, every time they mention a band that I never heard of or an artist I never heard of, I and it piques my interest. I have to go investigate,
Yeah,
and the downside is you go down that rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole costs money.
yeah.
But I have been blessed finding a lot of great music. I mean, granted, I won't be able to get every single thing that everybody recommends to me, but I'll get pretty damn close to it.
Lifetime of trying. That's the beauty of it. And like, what a beautiful advantage you have. You have the show, and you get to meet the people, and you get to talk to people. And some people are incredibly vain. Why, I don't know who would have a coffee cup with their picture on it. My gosh, what kind of people are they?
Hey, you gotta have it,
Oh,
you know.
it's such
It,
fun.
or even better is if you had a cardboard stand up of yourself
Oh,
behind,
well, it
you
just,
know.
yeah, I know. Not yet. Maybe next time I'll have one of those. It's just, for me, there's a persona of, that I enjoy presenting of myself. I'm actually incredibly shy and really don't like to leave the house that much, but that's not the persona of me. So I have fun, visualize that, and putting that forward. And, uh, you know, you think like that, and before you know it, you have a collection of coffee cups and T-shirts of yourself, and you have fun with it. To
Right.
me, that's the packaging part of being an artist. When I was going on tour with different artists, and I used to go into it for the music, going, we're going to create something great here. And for some music, that's what it's about. For other artists that I play with, it's about the show and big lights, extravagant sets and scenery. Um, and so that was something different. At first, that used to bother me, going, nobody's hearing the music when you have this much dancers going on, running across the stage, and lights and lasers. But then it finally hit me. That's what it's about. It's a huge entertainment package, and the music's kind of
Right.
secondary, and that's okay. Just don't expect it to be something that it's not. And there you go. Create some things for fun, some things for the packaging.
Now, what is a here's a this is an interesting question. What
Sure.
is an artist that you've played with live that people would be surprised that you did?
That would be surprised to what?
That you played with them, you know, you
Oh,
know,
um, hmm. Well, right now, I've played with different artists when they were famous themselves, like Frankie Avalon, and do you remember the Everly Brothers? Okay, so now their kids are, maybe 10 years younger than me, and I've run into them and been doing albums and projects with them. In particularly, the last one I did had Frank Avalon. It's not really a junior, but they call him Frank Avalon Jr. on drums, a wonderful drummer. And um, Don Everly's son, Eden, doing the vocals, and he's covering his dad's and uncle's songs, and they just came out great. And he has a wonderful sense of production. That's been a lot of fun to play with. Somebody that I played with too. There was kind of a country time in my life, and I got to record with Dwight Yoakam. And this was before he became very famous, but he was over at my house. I had a 4-track studio, and I'd say, oh, come on over, we'll record some stuff. And a lot of the tunes on his first album were demoed on my 4-track, and I was just starting to record. And so he brought his guitar over, and I had my stick, and did a couple vocals. And he goes, okay, I want to do 2 vocals, and I got my guitar part down, and you got your stick part down. Let me do one more overdub on guitar. And I go, okay, yeah, great. And so I'd record them, and then we go, what? Wait, where'd the stick part go? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, I'll record it again. And then you go to put the other guitar part on. Well, wait a minute, where'd that vocal go? I kept erasing one track to put the other one. Lost track of my 4 tracks. I was that clever. And then Pam Tillis, I toured with her for a little bit. And that's my dog singing You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog impersonation from Elvis. I got to play the Elvis show. I think a lot of people know already. Then he died. I was really looking forward to doing that show again. And at the time when he did pass, I was playing for Anne Margaret, and she had a huge production of a show. And then, everybody, I would imagine, remembers where they were when they heard that he passed away. And we were doing that show, and she canceled the next couple shows because they were very, very close.
Right.
The fun and horror of getting older, as you mentioned, people like, oh yeah, I used to work with Anne Margaret, Raquel Welch, and Shirley MacLaine, and you get the look of, whoa, I see your lips moving, but they mean nothing to me. I have no idea who they are. But happens. I think now when I mention Elvis, it's like, okay, that kind of cuts through. A lot of people heard of them, but maybe not so much of Eddie Money or Carrie Anderson, different artists that I played for that really were fun. Or Pat Benatar. I can say I had a gold album with her because it melted off my wall and my house burned down. And so when the people were sifting through the stuff, I'd say, there's gold in them hills. If you go through that ash and find something, little incentive to get my nephews to help clean up. Nobody found it.
Well, I always, I see it on TV shows and stuff like that when people mention music stars from the 60s and 70s and sometimes even the 80s, and the young kids go, huh?
Yeah.
Who's that? And it's like there's a thing called the internet where you can find out, to learn about these bands that the kids like in their early teens that, your dad, your parents or your grandparents, the music that they listen to is like,
Yeah.
Learn about it, because when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet to rely on, so it's like it was all word of mouth from, in the junior high and high school. It was all word of mouth of who's like, the way I knew about different bands was a guy went to every single concert in junior high and high school, and the next day he would come back, with a concert teacher. So it's like we knew this guy. I think he went to however many concerts came to the LA area. He went to possibly almost every single one. So it's like we knew, and always go up to him. So, if we didn't know the band, oh, who's that? And he would say it and tell it, and that's how we learn.
Yeah.
Now the kids, the way they learn is the internet. They don't get that word of mouth.
Yeah.
And
But it's nice you get to, like you said, you get to research it now. When I was growing up, my dad came from the big band era, And so I was fortunate enough to be exposed to that. My body of work of who I've played with goes way back to the 40s. There was a pop star of the 40s named Vaughn Monroe, and your grandmother maybe might have heard of him. That's how far back that goes. He had a hit, Dance Ballerina Dance, and I can remember playing in his band. And my mom loved his music, and she was in the audience, and my dad was in the band. I even think my brother was in that band, and got to grow up with that music and actually play with people old enough that were the original artists of that music. And it made a world of difference. You can learn something by book, be taught it, but it's a whole different thing when you came of that era and embodied
Right.
it. Another great example of that is growing up. I think every musician at one point in their life had to play the song Johnny Be Good. I grew to really hate it. And I thought, okay, I've heard that lick a million times.
Right.
And I got to play for, gosh, 65 is wonderful. What's that guy's name? You know,
Chuck
it's
Berry.
yeah. Chuck Berry, yeah. So how hard was that? Anyway, got to play for him. And so I'm playing away and I go, okay, he's going to play Johnny Be Good. And I'll be darned, it was the greatest version. The authenticity, the spark was there of, oh yeah, he's the one that wrote that. That now it makes sense. Each note has a story of where that became from. It had the integrity of it. And that just what really clued me into authenticity of what somebody has to say, and what they have to play is just so important. Otherwise, you're just reading like somebody reading out of a dictionary and just a bunch of words, no meaning. So
Yeah,
yeah,
my dad was, he grew up in the late 40s, so he was into the big band and then the early 50s rock and roll,
yeah,
and he was into the early part of 60s rock and roll, but then he said, I like his words, when it got weird, he said that's when he said, no, I'm going back to the
yeah,
standards, and he would listen to the standards, and then the more modern standards, like Barbara Streisand,
yeah,
uh, uh, something else. But it's just Kenny Rogers. He would like the more. I would say it was just more pop oriented stuff, not
sure.
so much his earlier stuff. But he used to tell me of all. He was from New Jersey, and he used to tell me about there was one. I don't know how big they were, but he used to tell me of this one. Uh, it was jazz slash big band, and I think it was called the Red Norvo Trio. And he
Mhm.
used to tell me all about this band. And I looked it up one time, and they were actually someone. It was a really bad recording, but someone put it up on YouTube. I don't know if it's still there or not. But it's like him telling me about music, and again, I listened to the 70s, 80s stuff, and he was trying to get me into that, but it's like it took me almost until maybe the past 10, 15 years to appreciate what he told me, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
since he's gone, it's like I can't really say, hey dad, you were right about some of this. This stuff is really good.
It's nice that you
And
took the moment to go look it up and really listen. I traveled a similar path with people that I was fortunate enough to get to play with, but didn't know they were famous at the time. And one of them was James Moody, and I played in a band with him for years, and then come to find out what an incredible, legendary jazz saxophone player he was. And then I look in the trumpet section, and there's Red Rodney, and he used to be with Coltrane in a band. So these incredible players that I didn't find out about till after I wasn't playing with them anymore, but was exposed to them. And
right,
I was saying the authenticity of somebody's playing is outstanding, greatly outweighs any kind of pizzazz that maybe more popular artists have. But yeah, you do a little research and find out who they are and where their music came from. I can remember in Vegas going, oh, James Moody's in the band. Oh, and then I go to the record store and buy a couple of his albums. Outstanding. And speaking a little bit of him, he was incredibly kind and really nice. And he took a liking to me. And he says, let me come over your house one day and let me give you a lesson in music. And I thought, oh, this jazz legend coming over to my house wanting to show me something. And so I showed him that I had the stick. And he looks at it and he goes, okay, interesting. All right, here's what I want you to do. And then he said, you know, with one of your hands, you learn every scale up and down this side. And the other hand, you learn the scales up and down, even though they cross over in range. And he says, well, what do you want me to show you? And I said, I want you to show me how to play outside the chords. And what a delightful man. Good time in my life back then. And meeting him and getting music's taken me all over the world. Got to go to Africa, Switzerland, toured Europe with rocket scientists, particularly in Holland. Good memories. I used to like when we took the tour bus, and I remember first getting on it, and I think it slept 8. And, you know, you get in your little bunk, and we were going through Italy, and it was a long trip. And I remember looking out the window kind of in the evening, and I could see the mountains in the background and the beautiful trees. And I thought, this is like falling asleep to the television, watching the Travel Channel, and they take you around. It was so beautiful. They were great tours. At one point, we were touring with Eric's, they called it the Wall of Doom. It was that gigantic synthesizer that was taller, wider than most stages. And I remember going through Italy, and we had to carry it, and we had some people to carry it, but everybody helps. And I remember taking into this one rock venue in Italy and finally getting it up the steps. And there's a beautiful tile, probably marble squares. And I go, oh, we finally got the Moog to the top. And we put it down on the ground, you hear crack. Oops, we made our mark in the studio. And then we turn all the power on, and I think we blacked out the club. Good times. But you get through it, makes for good stories.
Oh yeah. Now, is there anybody on your radar now that you want to work with? Or someone that, you know, strikes, you know, like, yeah, I like these guys or this girl, you know, these girls, you know.
Yeah. Good question. There's always, I always wanted to work with James Brown, but that's not going to happen. I have a lot of cool funk things I always wanted to do. So maybe Bruno Mars would be a lot of fun to do stuff with like that. Always wanted to, Eddie Van Halen, I just thought was just such an inventive guitar player. Jeff Beck. That's all I can think of at the moment. Oh, Paul McCartney would be fun to write with. You know, all the legendary people that we would all, you know, say, you know, that would be great. Who knows what the future holds? You never know where you get calls from. I always say serendipity is my best friend, and things just come out of the blue. So I never think that I'm done doing anything great musically. It's usually just a day away. Call happens, and all of a sudden you're doing a movie. It's so hard to break into anything in particular, but like I said, serendipity is my best friend. I had a stick student that I taught, and then, you know, we became friends, and then, you know, you don't hear from people for a while, and then the phone rings and he goes, oh, I became a successful screenwriter, and Fox greenlighted 2 of my movies, and I want you to score the films. And I know you've never scored a film before, so we'll hire somebody to write down everything that you whistle if you need to. But the beauty of this day and age was I could figure it out, and I had a computer, and I knew, well, it wasn't quite set up like it was now where you can do everything in your computer. I still had, they sent me a VCR tape of the film, and then my locking system was hitting my ADAT with one hand and the VCR at the same time at the other to see if my music somewhat lined up. And I knew that was further along in the production, but at least I know I was close. Now you can do it all yourself. But, you know, that was out of the blue. Wasn't looking forward, and that came, or any albums that I've always tried to get on of contacting people. It just came out of the blue. And so I'm a big believer in that. So waiting for the big blue to open up again, see what comes next. There's a jingle. I have a jingle company called Jingle Bar that I write with a woman named Renee Carley. And so we hooked into this show that's, might come about, called What's in Your Stash. So that looks like that might have a green light on it. I may have um, a theme on a TV show. So you never know what comes about. There's just a lot of things in the background fire that I'm waiting to come into the forefront. Meanwhile, you just keep writing and playing and making YouTube videos and putting your music out there as best you can. And I'm not so, I used to think I'm not focused because I don't just do prog. I do enjoy classical, and I've written some classical pieces, and I do enjoy R&B an awful lot. I like funk. And so it was always hard for me to focus of, oh, maybe I should just pigeonhole myself into one thing that I do, but never could. So I just let it all flow. Whatever comes out for that particular tune, I do. And then you do enough of that and you go, okay, well, this is really similar. I have almost enough for a smooth jazz album that I'm really enjoying doing. And I go, okay, well, then I can compile that all together. That would be great. In 2018, I started another solo prog album, but I haven't finished it yet, but that'll be something else that I'll have come out. And as you go through it, what's nice now of everybody's just a computer terminal away. Everybody's close around the world. So there's a wonderful guitar player that we used in Rocket Scientists on some tours, Per Verschuren, and been talking to Per over the internet and going, come on, send me some stuff. Let's start writing together. Let's see what we can do. So
Now, did you have anything going on? And basically a year ago that went once, what was it, March 13th, when everything just went stop. Almost like the world stopped in a lot of ways, Did you have anything going on that, you got, even if it was in idea mode, that
sure. Always. The only thing that stopped was the ability to be able to go over somebody's house or any tour that you were going, or even to the point of even sessions that you were going to do. I was going to Los Angeles when they don't want you to send something through the internet and they want you there, then you go to a studio. And so, okay, all that stopped. But the writing didn't stop, and the producing of it and idea flows, that didn't stop. Just keep going. And when things, I don't know what tours will develop, if that's in my cards. It's a lot of work and a lot of time, not only in going and touring, but there's the rehearsal aspect of it. And that's time consuming. That costs money. Then the touring aspect of it, very, very expensive. Hard to make. Whoever's putting up the money to have you go on tour, hard for them to make it back. And I'm not 18 anymore. I don't want to stay in a Motel 6. I'm going to stay in a really nice hotel, and I'm going to be comfortable, and I'm going to travel comfortably. So I would imagine, musician my age is like that. And so it costs money. So I don't know if that'll happen, but I don't count it out.
right? Yeah, it's like I have a lot of friends that are, some of them are complaining way too much that can't go to concerts, can't go to the clubs to see the musicians, and then yet I see some of them in these crowded areas without their mask, and I'm like going, that's why it's not happening. It's because people, I hate saying it, people like you that, not you, but, people like these people that they're saying, well, I'm going to complain, but, I'm going to complain about it, but then I'm going to be the cause of it to continue. And it's like, if we just do what the guidelines, I mean, they're not laws, they're guidelines. If we just do what the guidelines tell us to do, we'll get through this a lot quicker. And now, we're in the beginning stages of the vaccine. So it's not 100% sure where that's going right now. Mm-hmm. But some people have been taking it. I know a few people that have taken the vaccine, and they're either they're on their first or they're on their second round of it. But if the combination of the mask wearing and people vaccinated, maybe I don't think it's going to be this year, but I
No,
think maybe next year by summer, if everybody does their part,
yeah. Well,
as a, and I'll put it out there, as a decent human being,
mhm.
does their part to make sure that the entertainment um, business gets back to something where musicians such as yourself can do the tours,
Yeah,
whether they're, world tours or, you know,
just getting out and playing.
e-
It'll all come.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
already in my mind, I'm there. I know this will go away and the world will be up and bright and happy again, and we'll be out playing, and there'll be new ways of entertainment being developed through this pandemic, where everybody did get to stay home and make videos, and all that will be productive again, and there'll be a value to it, and people will pay to see certain things, and we'll get the entertainment industry back. I i don't have any doubt that that'll happen, and I look forward to that. And right now, like you say, you do what you got to do. You go out, you wear a mask.
yeah, and if you don't have to go out, just don't go out.
Yeah,
There's,
I have
you
my
know,
all our COVID buddy friends that we know where they've been. They know where I've been. Today, I will watch the Super Bowl with them. Um, I made beans, and they'll have chips. And I'm not really a sports fan, but it's the one game that I watch, and I know everybody has fun getting together to do that. But through this time, there are COVID safe buddies, so we will go to their house, and it'll be a little small gathering. And if everybody does that part, even so minuscule as wearing a mask and not making COVID spread events, they'll get through a lot faster.
oh yeah, and the sooner we do that, the sooner we can get back,
Hmm.
not to normal. I don't think there's ever going to be a normal, because I think this was our wake up call. That
Hmm.
normal wasn't doing it anymore. We need to get to a place where we're more aware
Yeah.
of health issues that can arise. They can, if this thing happened, what else can happen? Are we going to be ready for the next COVID? You know,
Oh, I think we're quite resilient, both as a people in the world, and then even drilling down to the smallness of entertainment business. It always survives. If I think of bad times in history for musicians, I always think of the silent movies. And there was always a gig for a piano player playing to silent movies. And then when they had sound to them, they were out of a gig. They had to do something else or find another way to make a living. So, in a lot of respects, new technology has um, taken away a lot of music jobs. There used to be a job for an orchestrator, an arranger, a songwriter, a vocal coach. I remember playing for Eddie Fisher, to name from the past, Carrie Fisher's dad. And he came with a vocal coach. And I went, what? Who does that? I never heard of that, but that used to be something that was very common with singers. They didn't write their songs, but they had somebody coach their vocals, so it kept them in, I guess, top form. But nobody has a vocal coach anymore that I know of. So you reinvent something. You lose some things, you gain some things. It'll find itself. It'll grow. Sad though I did like touring, and I did like playing in large orchestras, like in Vegas. That was like sometimes a 40-piece orchestra, and that was exciting to hear all that sound around you and play, and all those musicians, and you read your parts. And it was like, I always look at the bands like that, where there's a lot of people that have to read a chart. That's my musical version of a team sport. Everybody's got to work together and be on the same page and play the same layout. That was a lot of fun. And
yeah,
it had a whole weird twist to it that I put to it, because I would look at the music and I'd look at the bass part and I go, well, yeah, that's nice, but I got something better I think I could add. As a rhythm player, you can do that. As a sax or a trumpet player, the moment you do that, you've just ruined the whole section, because they have their integral part they need to play to fill out a chord. As a rhythm player, you were pretty much soloing all the time. It was nice. I like being a rhythm player, especially a bass player or coming from the bass aspect. I was teaching somebody yesterday, they had a theory question, and it brought back one of the greatest reasons of why I like playing bass and creating bass lines. And he was asking me about a C chord. And I said, well, the C chord's great. All chords are made up of the first tone, third tone, and fifth tone, 1, 3, 5. And it's a very pretty, pleasant sound. It's kind of happy. And I said, but as a bass player, if I play a C bass, it's a C chord. But if I play an A note below that C chord, now it's an A minor 7 chord, and a little bit sad and a little bit moodier. So as a bass player, you control the mood, you can control rhythm, you kind of direct everybody where you want to go. Theory and fun music.
Well, it's when I talk with my musician friends, I learned some of these things, the behind the scenes information of how they created their music, and it's really eye-opening a lot of times. Like, oh my, I just can't believe that's how you guys did it, or how you did it. It's like, so when you guys talk, even though when you talk music theory, and how to read music, that's like, for me, it's a completely different language, but I enjoy listening to it. I've found myself numerous times on YouTube watching guitar players talking about was it scales and stuff like that. And I'm like, I have no idea what these guys are talking about, but listening to them, and then when they're giving musical examples of it, I'm like going, okay, and then or they explain how going back to Eddie Van Halen, how he did Eruption and all this, it was like it's like you heard this hundreds of times before, but then when they explain it, it's like you get a whole different appreciation.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head when you said a language, because music is a language, and it's the language of emotions. You can speak it, you can read it, and you can write it. And the necessity for me being a working musician had to be able to read it. The next step above being able to read music was your interpretation of it. Everybody can read the music, but it's going to feel different depending on who plays it. And so then you have to take yourself aside from the notes and give them feeling, give them meaning, give them intent. Like telling a story, your inflection to the words. Everybody can read the word, but some people are really great at telling that story. It feels different coming from them. So you have to look at the page of music and go, I put myself into that. And that's how I made a name for myself, going, okay, I see where you wanted to go with this. I got something that I could do a little bit better, in my opinion. And I remember playing, and this famous orchestrator wrote the music for everybody to play. And the band's playing, and I could see him out in the rehearsal looking at me, thinking, I didn't write that part. And so when the orchestra stopped, I see him coming up on the stage, and I go, he's always going to call me out and make it
Right.
this. And right when he got up to me, the artist turned around and said, my God, that sounded incredible. Wow, what a great feel. And she turned to him and said, how incredible your writing was. And he went, yeah, okay. And never came up to me, never said a word, just, okay, we'll just let that guy do what he's going to do. And it's going over.
Well, it's nice when you do, when everything comes out naturally, and you do and let's say, if you, like you said, working for someone else, and even if they maybe never heard of you personally, but then when they hear you play, you go, it's like, well, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't need to tell him,
Yeah.
and that's pretty amazing, when I hear that, it's like where it's like they're basically going to let you do what you're going to do because they know it's not coming from ego, it's coming
You know.
from your soul, your musical soul that
And your knowledge. I did a session for Eddie Money one time, and everything was already recorded, and they wanted to change the bass out. So I got a call, and I go into the studio, and one of the first things Eddie says is he was angry that this tune was recorded too slow, and I said, I can make it feel faster, and he's like, it's recorded at this tempo. How is it going to be faster? And I said, well, just, roll the tape and let me record a part. And it's the inflection that you play, the duration of your notes, the way that you place them against the drums. And he goes, oh, now it's at the right tempo. What did you do? And you're just intent. You can make things feel fast. You can make things feel slow. I had a great drummer when I was starting out playing with him, Tony Murillo, and he would be able to broadcast to me what was coming up in the music, just in the way that he would set up different phrases. And so was able to take control of a band. And so I learned that of how I can get people, different players in different sections, drummers and particularly, how I wanted them to lay the beat. If I wanted them to play quieter or bring something forward without speaking. And you could do that within the tune itself. It's such a great way to communicate, and nice when you can gravitate. If you're playing with players that can't feel or listen, you're talking to somebody that's deaf. But if they had any bit of feeling or inflection while you play, they would always pick up subconsciously what I was trying to get them to do, and everything went smoothly. I had a lead trumpet player tell me one time that I controlled the pitch. And I said, how so? And he goes, everybody subconsciously listens to the lowest note and tunes to that. And I remembered that. And I remember playing in an orchestra, and I had the orchestra, all the string players, violins, violas, cello, to my right. And I had all the horn players on my left. Horn players, when they blow, kind of have a tendency naturally to blow a little sharp. And string players have their own way of doing things. And so I noticed everybody, when we first started, was a little out of tune on each half. And I thought, well, this will be a fun experiment. I will play notes that I have in common with the string players. I will tune to where they're at, and I'll tune my other couple of strings to where the horn player's at, and we'll see what happens. And it was a mess. Nobody could find a center of pitch, and the orchestra just kept getting further and further out of tune. And I thought, oh, that guy was right. People listen to the lowest note and tune to that. So that was always my lesson in back then. Tuners weren't that popular. And so the only thing that can't be tuned on a stage is the piano. I mean, it's tuned and set, it's not going to change. So before any show that I did, I would always go to the piano, make sure I was locked into that. Then the orchestra would be locked into the piano, and, nobody the wiser is why everything sounds so nicely in tune. Now you have tuners, and I used to lose them. I always hated that the Boss tuners were always $70, and you'd go to a session and you'd leave your tuner and forget, oh, that's $70 down the drain. Go buy another one. So now, I don't leave my phone anywhere. I always got that. So I put my tuner on my phone. So I've always got that wherever I go, and solve that problem.
Now, are you one that when you pick up whatever your instrument of choice, do you record what you do and just listen to it later on and see if an idea comes out of it, or do you just
Good
wing
question.
it?
I usually pick up an instrument if I'm going to try something out, but I've always got the phone. It's usually I'll get an inspiration to do something, and I know if I take too long messing with it, I'm going to lose the impetus of it. And to all of a sudden go into the studio, turn everything on, get a sound, because that'll sonically affect what I'm going to play. However, when I pick up an instrument, whether it's a bass or the sticks don't have a hollow body, so it's quiet if you don't plug it in. But the beauty of it is when I'm playing it, it's so quiet. I'm really hearing what I'm playing in my head, and it has the perfect bass stick tone. It has the perfect melodic tone that I want. That's what I'm hearing. When I then go to record it, it might not be that sound, and that'll be annoying. So I always have my phone with me. And even though it's a terribly crappy recording of what I'm doing, I'm still going to hear it the same way. And I'm going to hear it internally that, oh, yeah, I know how that should sound. I remember that. And so that's how I'll capture the creativity and keep it in its essence. Then when I go to record, before I go to record it, I will take the time to go, okay, I need this emulation or this effect on it, or EQ it a certain way so I match to what I'm hearing in my head. Then I'll re-listen to my crappy recording, and that's my beginning process. But all of a sudden dive in and go, I got to record this, gets in the way. I might lose something. And
Right.
like that, I forget it. Those two guys, and one of their famous saying was, "Always record, always hit record." I love that. That's so true. If you don't, you got to capture it right then, or it goes away. So many times I've said, "Oh, how could I forget this? Like, this is so great. This is so creative. It's what I've always wanted." I don't need to remember it or record it. And an hour later, I'll be in a different frame of mind, and it's gone. And I have to tell myself it came up once, it'll come up again, uh, to settle my mind of not thinking I lost.
Right.
So it comes back, but now I just know to record it, or I have the ability to write it down, get a piece of paper, write the rhythm down, assign a note to it, keep it that way.
Oh yeah, it's just, some people have that perfect kind of a memory that they'll remember it, and others people
Oh yeah, in one ear.
you need to record it, and then I think there's someone in between where they got a good memory, but it's like they got so many different ideas going around that they want to make sure that each idea is captured. So, and even if it's like you're saying, a crappy recording, but at least the ideas are there, so that it's like when you go to do it for, whether it's a final take or something like that, that you go, okay, well, that was the ideas. I mean, okay, it does sound pretty crappy, but I'm gonna make it sound better,
Right.
because you got
It inspires the impetus of why you played it. I always like to be the session guy that would frustrate the engineer in recording because you gave them so many great options. They're like, wow, and now we got to pick one. And that's what I always shot for. I'm not only going to play that great part, I'm going to give you two or three that really work. And then you got to pick what you're going to do with it. There was a football league that tried to start, I think 2 years ago, the American Alliance of Football, and it was going to compete with the NFL. I think they millions of dollars went into it, and I got to play on the theme. And so I drove to Los Angeles, but prior to that, they sent me the theme and wanted me to play stick on it, and I did, and they liked what I did, and then I went in and I liked my original track that I wrote at home and recorded really fine to send them if they wanted to use it. And then I went into the studio and gave a bunch of options live, playing with the drummer and everybody else. And it was nice that they took a lot of what I originally recorded them from my home studio. And I like that. I like to give option overload. Another album that I did that had the same amount of creativity that they let me have was Carrie Anderson. And she only did one album. She was up for a Juno Award, which is Canada's Grammys. And
right.
beautiful. One of my favorite all-time albums. I always say when I play on a song, sometimes I say the bass parts are etched in stone. Every note's perfectly placed, has meaning. I wouldn't change a note. And on that whole album came out that way. And I remember playing with Greg Ellis, he was the drummer, and we just locked in so beautifully. Love the album, love the songs. Uh, I expected it to be a really, really big album, but I guess the label didn't put enough promotion behind it, and she only came out with that one album. It's a shame. I love that one. And then an album that I don't think ever really came out on a label was one that Mark McCrite introduced me to the band, and they were called River. And that was another album that I went, wow, my parts are etched in stone. Wouldn't change a thing. Uh, Everything was lovely about it. The texture of the lead vocalists against all the instruments was just outstanding. And you just wonder, well, that could have been a great album. Carrie Anderson's album could have been a huge hit. That would have been great. Just not meant to be. Doesn't mean they're any less of an album because they didn't
Right.
come that big. Another one that I'm proud of my work on, I just played on maybe 5 tunes, was his name's Chris Chiarte, and he was the drummer and one of the drummers in Rocket Scientists. And he did an album and asked me to play some parts on it. And same thing, let me have the freedom. And I went, wow, that's like kind of some of my best playing. That's great. And he goes, yeah, and entirely not where we were headed, but loved what you did and how you influenced. Thank you. And that's what I like to do with creative projects that I'm on. You know, you can tell me tell me the direction you're going in, and I'm going to give you a lot of options to get you there. And
Yeah.
I like at the end of a session or something, you know, you make your little mark. I was here. They were hired. They asked for me to play on it because of how I play and what I do. I remember when I first went to Vegas, and the conductor said, oh, okay, there's certain artists coming in and we want you to play like Ray Brown, who was a very famous jazz upright bass player. And I thought to myself, well, then why don't you call Ray Brown? This is a great gig and it pays well. I'm sure he'd probably say yes. I was kind of a little young and insulted that, oh, you want me to play
Right.
like somebody else. But I was being young and foolish. That was the whole idea of being a sideman. You know, you play like the act wants you to play until you make a name, and then then you become the guy that somebody tells somebody else, oh, play like Don Schiff. So
Right. Right.
that was what I strive for. And then I read a joke one time of the 3 or 4 phases of a musician's life. And you go and you play something and they go, oh, play like, and they mention somebody famous. And then they go, okay, well, now we like this guy, so get me Don Schiff. And so then you become your icon name. And then another guy will come in and do a session and they'll go, well, you play like Don Schiff. And then they play like you. And then the next phase of your life is, who's Don Schiff? Never heard of the guy. You phase out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think with the internet, unless someone's not paying attention, you're always going to be remembered
Mm-hmm.
in some shape or form, whether it's through YouTube or,
Yeah.
Playing live, doing your, doing studio albums, whatever it is, there's always going to be something that people will remember you by, because nowadays everybody's documenting every single thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes to overkill in a way, but I think the plus side that comes out of that is that you'll be able to have everything that you want documented. Of course, there's going to be things that you wish, okay, I wish that wasn't documented, but
Oh, you try to keep those out. Like I always try not to have things that I regret out there. But what I also do is I lose pictures a lot. Where I grew up in an age, you're older when you have a black and white picture of yourself somewhere when you were a kid, and it has the little like clamshell fringes on the edges of it. And that's the way pictures used to come out. So, you lose all those. So now when I do my little videos, sometimes if it's just for fun, I go, oh, I always want to remember this picture. Let me put this picture in the video. So it'll always be on the internet somewhere. If I ever want to go look at it, it's in a video or something. And I remember I was in a couple movies that friend that became the successful screenwriter. So he used to say, okay, I want you to do the movies, to write the music for the movie, but I'm going to be like Alfred Hitchcock, who's always in a scene somewhere. He goes, I'm just going to throw you in the movie somewhere and give you a little acting part. And so he used to be quite funny about it. And so on one film called Family Values. There was the last scene where this homeless guy is crushing cans and putting him in the back of an alley, and it was a dirty alley. And he goes, okay, okay, you got to look homeless. And he had people dig a hole and fill it with water, make it mud. He goes, yeah, roll around in that mud there and look really dirty and look really filthy, and then walk around while the camera shoots you. And it's a humorous guy. So the movie comes out and I look at it, and the camera was so far away. I could have been wearing a tuxedo. You would have never known. And he says, that was my little sense of humor. I just wanted to watch you roll around in the mud for a little bit. So thank you. And then another time he had me run up. This was a TV movie for the Fox network called Live from Death Row. And it had Joanna Cassidy in it and Bruce Davison. And I went, oh, I'm in a movie with some stars I've heard of. Oh, this will be fun. And he goes, now you got to run up to the van and say, Alana, I love you. And that was the main character's name in there. And I go, oh, okay, great. But he didn't quite mention that the van was going to be kind of moving at the time. And so I ran up to the van and I wrapped my arms around the open window and I yell and I go, Alana, I love you. And I figured I need more camera time. So I'm going to say it twice. So I go, Alana, I love you. I love you. But he didn't tell me that they were then going to roll up the window on me while the van's moving. So I got dragged, 10 feet down the road. I go, thank you, Pat. Good humor.
Yeah, I always get those people.
Yeah, this is fun. We've been friends many, many, many years now. I had a situation once, and he's this type of person that a practical joker, and you won't know it. And I imagine, God rest his soul when he passes away, we'll all be friends around him. And I know stories about other friends that he's never told them that he's played jokes on. And I figure at that time we will expound on our jokes. And I figured the one that I think he played on me was I got hired to go play in this really fancy restaurant with a group of musicians I had never heard of. And so it was for a sax player, and he calls me up and he says, oh, we don't need to rehearse. We'll just show up on the gig. And to me, that usually means that they're really A-list players. They know what they're doing. You get up and you play your instrument and it'll sound great together. So I was kind of excited. And I said, well, what songs you're going to play? And he goes, well, I have some written out music. And I go, okay, piece of cake. So I show up on the gig. Excellent restaurant, fancy waiters, beautiful white tablecloths and a little stage. And I get up and the sax player goes, let's go back in the dressing room and I'll give you the music. And so I go back in the dressing room and he has these little ripped off sheets of paper with notes on it. And I go, well, what's this? And he goes, oh, you just play this line for a little. This will be our first song. And I went, okay, either this guy is really phenomenal or a kook. And I go, I'm going to go with he's a phenomenal player, and I'm going to play this little bass line. So I get on stage, setting up, playing my bass. I notice the keyboards player has his little synthesizer out, and his hands are both playing these elaborate chords, but only one note's coming out at a time. And so I look down at him and I go, is that a polyphonic keyboarding? Meaning you can play more than one note at a time and it'll play a chord. And he goes, oh yeah, I just got this polyphonic keyboard, but it's only playing one note at a time. And I go, okay, interesting. The drummer gets on stage and he just starts playing loud and obnoxious. No reason for that. Just all this outlandish stuff. And I go, wow, that is highly, highly annoying. But I guess he's going to be a great player once we start playing, and it's all going to come together. The vocalist, female vocalist, gets up and I said, what songs are you going to sing? And she says, well, I don't know. I just met these people. We're in the apartment where I live. And I thought, now I'm scared. So we get up to play the first song and it's horrific. The sax player is all over the place. Nothing makes sense. The keyboard's only playing one note at a time, but looking like he's playing chords. And the drummer is obnoxiously loud, making no sense with what he's playing. And I look at it, the head maitre d', and he's looking up at me. And mind you, these other players look scary. And I thought, did they just come out of the worst part of LA? And and happened to own instruments and collected some stuff out of the trash. And I'm looking at him going, this is awful. You know, are you hearing what I'm hearing? And I'm making eye contact with the maitre d', and he's looking really nervous. So then we go to our second tune, equally as obnoxious and horrible. And I'm thinking, oh, my friend Pat Duncan, the screener, I bet he set this up and he's filming it somewhere. And I'm looking around the restaurant and I don't see any cameras or any place where anything could be hidden. And I'm pleading with my eyes to the maitre d', please throw us off the stage. I can't take this anymore. Finally comes up, says, oh, okay, guys, you know, sounding really, really great, but we've made you dinner at this table over there, so you can stop playing now and go eat. And I went, oh, thank God. So we sit down and we're eating halfway through the meal, and then the maitre d' comes over and says, okay, we've had enough music. We're good. That was really, really great. Finished. Here's your check. You know, so we got paid for it. I never found out the end of my story yet, whether that was the big joke on me. The sax player was saying, okay, now, you know, when I get another gig, maybe we'll have a rehearsal. And I go, no, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Don't need to call me anymore. I've had enough. So maybe one day I would love to hear that it was a joke and that he did film it rather than it was just a frightening day in my life with scary musicians on the stage. But a good story.
Oh yeah, it's always, you know, you go to recall things like that. You know, I remember, you know, not being a musician myself, and my friend's band. They were going to go. They were playing over at the, I believe it's the Rainbow on Sunset,
Yeah, I've been there.
and you know that little triangle stage that they have. Well, the guitar player told me, "Do me a favor, go plug in the guitar and just hit a couple, you know, strum it a little bit." And I go, "Is it going to go out to the audience?" No, no. He says, I have it on standby." Well, he told me to hit a button. It's dark.
Mhm.
So I went to go hit a button. I hit the thing. I send out a wave of feedback
Oh,
right
no.
into the audience. And all I wanted to do was just melt into the stage. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, a musician being in that position where they just want to melt right into the stage or disappear or something, you know, that they want to be out of there immediately, you know. And it's like,
But
to this day, it's still, you know, I don't think I would ever want to step on a stage, you know, because just remembering that.
sounds are like that. I always say they're like, look at me sounds, whether they're accidental or not. Growing up, my Vegas years were very formative for me because I got to play for a lot of the high-end pros, especially comedians. And there was never dead air. That was like cardinal sin. If something went wrong and you just let the space be empty and waited for somebody to fix it. And so I always say when you perform, you know, a lot goes wrong. Always have a couple stories ready to fire off so you can at least fix things while you tell the story, just to keep the dead air off.
Right, right.
Once you step on stage, that's pretty much like hitting the look at me button, and you're there for the duration.
Yeah, you know, so it's like, I mean, I think there was one stage that I thought was really cool that my friends played on. I forgot, in Hollywood. It was called Florentine Gardens, and they had this huge stage, but it was set up, I think, in the 40s for like a big band, but
Yeah.
right there. And my cousin gave me this bass that it wouldn't stay in tune for more than 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And my friend, the band, they wanted to use it, you know, because I wanted to light it on fire and destroy it after, you know, got like about the 28 or 29-minute mark and do that. Well, he tried doing that. That thing must have been made out of steel because it wouldn't
Oh, it wouldn't light up.
bud. Oh, it lit up, but it wouldn't break. The
Yeah.
thing wouldn't break. And I'm not in the audience filming it. And so what does he do? He throws it off the stage and it nails me in the knee. And it's like, I'm like going, and they were always asking me at that one point that how the camera was focused right here on them and it went down like that. And what happened? What did you look,
Yeah.
I said, that's the time when when what's his name threw his bass out into the off stage. It, guess where it landed? On my knee. So, that's what my reaction to it was. But it was funny that he wanted that thing to break so bad
Yeah.
and it just didn't. And it's like, well, I said, maybe next time if you get a cheap bass that you want to break, maybe saw into it a little bit,
Yeah.
even
There
if,
you go. Yeah.
you know,
Those
but
fun moments gave good.
oh yeah, that's the thing, it's like these are the moments that the average person probably won't ever experience because, whether, me being, I was kind of like the unofficial roadie for them because I was helping them uh, with their gear. I helped the drummers set up. He just pointed where he wanted everything, and I just set it up. And if he started getting a little annoyed about what I was doing, I said, "Look, that you told me to put it on the X. I put it on the X. If you wanted it somewhere else, do it yourself."
Yeah.
you know. And so it's like but it was an experience to see behind the scenes, and I was in their little studio, their little practice studio, while they're trying out the different notes, songs, and they would always ask me and I said, well, from a listener's point of view, I said, don't do that. It's like everybody expects you to do that. Don't do what they expect you to do.
Yeah.
Then what's the point of you being the band? Do so, because people already have 10 other of those types of bands. Is you want to be something unique,
Yeah.
but then something people can identify with at the time. That's why there's so many different bands out there that it's like I hate when uh, I hear about bands being forced into doing what they don't want to do. It's like, you know,
Well, there's always great train wrecks. I was always one to like a good train wreck when they were happening. And uh, I remember one time we had all these dancers that would come out, and it was to a click track. And I was the first instrument to play. So, I would hear 4 clicks and then I would start. Orchestra would follow along. And eventually a pre-record would come on. And it was where the dancers would be singing. They can't dance and sing at the same time. There's too much jumping and acrobatics about it. You just can't do it. So they would mouth it and the voices would come out. And so they're out there coming out to dance and sing, and the voices weren't in sync with what they were doing. So they just tried to catch up to where they thought they should be, and they were bumping into each other. It was hysterical. I loved it. Up to the point that it turns out that I was the one that caused the cavalcade of everybody colliding, because I was daydreaming, and instead of waiting for 4 clicks to play, I waited for 8. And so everything was going to be a bar off. And I went, oh, now I feel so bad. It was so enjoyable and funny when I didn't think it was my fault. There are other times where there was an animal act, which are always fun, but they're usually at night. And this one was in the daytime. And they brought a tiger out onto the stage, and they were going to make the tiger disappear. So they're bringing the tiger out of the cage, and the tiger's used to it being nighttime. And he's like, it's in the afternoon. I'm not liking it. But they had a leash on him, and they're dragging him across the cement. And I'm on a 3-tier band cart. And so as soon as the tiger hit the wood part of the stage, he noticed that his nails could dig in. And he's like, not time to perform, not doing it. So he just ran, dug in. Hang on, not now. Dug his nails in, and had the traction and was able to pull away from the trainer, and ran out and was running around it. And you should have seen everybody backstage going, "The tiger's loose!" It was like ants fleeing all over the place, men going banging on the woman's bathroom, trying to get in and closing the door, not letting the next guy in, and the tiger's running around the backstage. And I was able to enjoy the cacophony because I was on the third tier, and I went, this tiger's got to eat his way through the sax section, then got to eat his way through the trumpet section, and then's got to get through the percussion and the drummer before it gets me. He'll be full. I got nothing to worry about. And eventually all the other trainers came out with a tranquilizer and shot the tiger, but not enough to put him to sleep, just enough to calm him out because there was a show to do. So they
Right.
dragged Sleepy Tiger out on stage and made him disappear. I love a
Right.
good train wreck, but not when it's my fault.
Right. Anyway. Yeah. So what else? You have anything, any new YouTube videos you're working on, or?
Oh yes, I've got the next one. I have a couple tunes written. Have sung. The next one I'm going to sing. It's called "Living in Hollywood," and I wrote it about 5 years, but never really was happy with it. And just the other day, I was playing it, and I go, "Oh, I waited too long to start my melody, and that's why it was dragging." And so then started my melody maybe a bar and a half earlier, and it matched the chords, and then it had some really great flow to it, and I go, okay, this is just how I pictured it and wrote it. So that's half the battle. Now the next is recording it and getting a good vocal, and then now while I'm doing that, I design what it is that I want to see while I'm singing this. And so it's about Hollywood, so of course got to have the Hollywood sign in there, and I'll do some green screen work. uh, Initially, I thought I would go to drive to Los Angeles, but that's not going to happen. So I will just green screen everything. So I got that in the works, and I'm very excited about that. That one keeps me up at night. And I think, oh, there are my cats here. A couple other recording projects. I've got the next, what I call Rising from the Ashes, which when my house burnt down, my nephew put up a GoFundMe for that. And I just thought, I'm just going to document what I'm going through at different times. Uh,
Right.
I love doing those. They're a lot of fun. At the end of it, it'll probably take a year. Then I'll compile all the moments together, and it'll be a nice little memory keepsake for me. So I'm always thinking about what am I going to do next for that. They're a lot of fun to do. Um, got that one next to do. Then these albums that I have upcoming that are with other artists. I can't really talk about them yet because they're not finished yet, and
Right.
they're not my projects per se to talk about. But lots to do. I'm excited and just plowing through the COVID, plowing through the quarantining, and getting out there as much as I can through um, podcasts such as yourself, like this, which is wonderful to do, to be out there and be alive, have people let me know who I am and what I'm doing, and then as well as making more YouTube videos and just recording. I like the series that I started, the first one where, jam along with Don. Fun that I don't have to create the melody. Love creating grooves. I found this, one of my favorite drummers and favorite all-time bands is Tower of Power. And I just love how they created beats. And I happened to go on YouTube and catch the drummer's theory on how that came about. And one of his exercises was taking, accenting one beat, 1/16th note, and moving it down a 16th note every time. But keeping a sense of where one is all the time. And it really gets tricky the longer you go. And finally, after 5 rounds, it comes back on one, but you really got to use your head to maintain a feel of where the downbeat always is and where one always is. And that's how they created their Tower of Power grooves. And I think that helped me actually write and finish that song, because it gave me really a sense within of not having to count, just intuitively being solid onto where one is and what particular 16th beat I'm on in that measure or that particular beat. I don't know how I got on that tangent, but anyway, that was exciting. keeps me active into YouTube and listening and learning, always onto
Oh yeah.
the next sound, next groove. I love the new plugins that are coming out. I used to always have to go, what amp am I going to get next? What effect pedal? And now that they're all plugins, which was fun. Why? When I was a kid, that little box first came out and looked like it looked, and then now there's a plug-in of a picture of that box, and it looks and sounds like it does. One of my funnier moments with that is I used to have I think it was by Mutron, and it was an octave divider, and I bought it and I loved it, and I put it on my bass, and I got an octave below every note until I got to the low E, and it couldn't reproduce that. It would make this horrible glitching sound. So then I found it as a plugin, and I go, oh, this is great. I bet they fixed that glitchy sound because now it's in the digital domain and they can make it work. But they emulated everything about it, including everything that didn't work so nice about it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then of course you got to do something with your cat. Got to do a
Oh,
studio album with your cat.
oh yes. And then, of course, designing the next studio, they always have a place in there. Kitty, actually, in this, I call it the living submarine because it's just this one trailer, one long hallway. And the other day, it was funny. I think there's a video that I put out of my wife and I trying to pass each other in the hallway, and we have to like bump up next to each other and squeeze by. The other day, the dog went down the hallway and the cat came up the hallway, and they were in an impasse, and they just stared at each other and stared at each other. And I was thinking, oh, I hope the dog wins because the dog's so gentle, and the cat just usually dominates his way, just with a certain look of they'll both be on the bed and the cat will go, I don't want you here. And the dog, oh, okay. And he'll acquiesce and go off. And so I kept going, good girl, good dog, just kind of beefing her up to, hold her ground. And then so finally the cat went, meh, turned around. A funny trailer. But in the next studio, we'll have plenty of room. They'll have plenty of room. It'll be nice. But getting toward kickoff time.
Oh yeah.
For the Super Bowl, do you have any particular team?
Actually, I not a sports person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, never really followed any of the sports. My brother, on the other hand, he was a sports guy. Every Super Bowl he would have his group of friends over, and they would be loud and obnoxious, and and it's like I often wondered, it's like were they actually really watching the game, or were they just being loud and obnoxious?
It's like, I often wonder. I have musician friends that are really into sports, and so I'll have to give them a call to see who I'm supposed to be rooting for. But I'm not either. If I didn't have somewhere to go or invited over somewhere, then I would be in the studio. That's always my favorite spot to go and record. When I first met my wife, and we were living together, and she would see me practicing all the time. And she'd say, oh, why don't we go out and do something? And I go, well, I'm practicing. She goes, but you already have a great job. You're already making good money. And what do you need to practice for? And I go, this is something I will always do in our relationship. You need to get a hobby. And then with those words, she went out and became a macrame artist, a stained glass artist, did pottery. And that little bit, you need something to entertain yourself speech. I can take credit for her artistry that way. She went out and took it to heart.
Oh, yeah. Usually when these kind of games come on, while everybody else is rooting for whatever team, however degrees, whether it's casual to ultra fanatic, I usually watch movies. I usually get a marathon of maybe about 2 or 3 different movies just to watch because usually at that time there's nothing else on TV, so it's like that's dominating the TVs. But But nowadays you got so many different channels out there that, you can always find something to watch. It's
Oh,
like,
beauty of the age. When I was a kid, I used to think, why can't they have cartoons 24 hours a day? And now they do. There's always something.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really glad that we got a chance to talk because I think we spoke briefly. Now, this was at the Thousand Oaks show that you guys did back. It was 2000, right? I think.
I would have
I
to take
believe it, I think it was in 2000. Um, and I was first talking, after the show with Eric and Lana for a while,
Mhm.
and briefly Mark said hello, and then you came out for a little bit, and we spoke. I don't remember what the subject was. We just spoke for a little bit, but ever since then, it's like, "Well, I want to talk with this guy again.
Oh,
I don't know where or when it's going to happen, but I want to talk with him again because it just felt easy to talk with. I didn't feel like, how sometimes you feel intimidated by people,
mhm.
and I said, I didn't feel that. I was like, oh, need to talk to him. It's just the same. It's like with Mark
Mhm.
and with Eric and Lana. It's like it's just talking to him as if we were friends for
That's nice.
years. And I did one time when I was living in Santa Monica. Eric and Lana came down to the Denny's there on I think it was Lincoln Boulevard,
Mhm.
and I at that time I have a written interview I did with them, and it was just so nice. Just sitting there in the Denny's booth, talk about certain things. I was writing things down. I really kind of wish I had a tape recorder because
You can't remember everything.
um, well, no, it's not so much that. It's just my writing after about an hour being there with them, my writing just started becoming more and more illegible. And it's like when I got home, trying to decipher, the first part of it easy, but then as I got towards the end, I was like going, "What is that word?" So I just had to close my eyes and kind of picture what I asked them, and then it was fine. But it's like I think I would have benefited from a tape recorder, because then would have been able to get all their words down perfectly.
Yeah.
You know,
Everybody has a
Uh, the-
certain way to tell a story. It'd be nice if you could capture that again.
oh yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, um
They're so nice.
oh yeah, nicest people.
Ron is
I,
wonderful. Such a pleasure to play with and write with. She did a couple of songs on our earlier albums that my writing partner Tully Winfield and I wrote. Um, Cold Outside, Under the Olive Tree. It's just nice to hear her take on them. She's such a wonderful singer and performer. I used to always wonder, sometimes we'd be on stage together and she'd have this scarf that she would wave around. And I always thought that, that looks so cool and that's so nice. She'd come by me and wave it. And I think, but I don't know what to do.
right.
Wasn't sure how to react to that. She was just such a great stage presence.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing whenever I see the videos, because I never got to see her live.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
but all the time I see that, and I had the DVDs that she put out,
Mhm.
and I misplaced them because I moved so many things around over the years. I misplaced so many things. Some things that when I did the move from California to here to Maine,
Mhm.
uh, things I thought I packed up, I guess I never did, and they stayed back in California. And my mom thought didn't know what they were, so I guess she must have tossed them out. I don't know. It was just one of those things, and it's like, but from watching her perform, it was like, oh,
Something
it's
special.
like, yeah,
I always like
I
doing
mean,
albums at because Eric's the producer and it's a wonderful studio that they have, especially now where they live. And so the added treat is you go to the studio and she has Lana Lane Bakery. So I always love a good coffee and a pastry.
Yeah, I keep on seeing all of her, her advertising on
Yeah.
Facebook about that. Hopefully one of these days when Eric is not too busy, that I can get him to do one of these things. It'd be kind of nice to,
Yeah.
that would be like 20 something years down the line of, kind of reminisce about that booth in Denny's, and then how,
He's a busy
how so
man.
many things have changed.
Yeah.
But
He was so kind.
hopefully, yeah, very, all of you guys are very, very kind, very nice, uh how to say, salt of the earth people, that old saying, and it and it's just amazing, that you guys never got that typical rock star egos, that every, most people would get,
Well, we have that.
because hey,
It comes from playing in a lot of different bands, growing up in situations, having good parents, um, and seeing it happen. You perform with when they're not acting nice and having a big ego, and you see that happen once, and you just think, I don't want to be that. There's no reason for it, and it's a huge waste of time when you come upon somebody like that. They suck up a lot of air, a lot of energy, a lot of creativity that normally would have happened won't. They
right,
just suck it all out of the air. It disappears, and they don't suck it into themselves to where they would all of a sudden be great and creative. It's just sucked and gone.
right,
Toxic
yeah,
people, good to stay away.
yeah, I
Sometimes I
agree.
play with for famous people, and my motto was, when you travel, two limos would pull up, and I would always wait to see which one the star got in, and I'd go to the other limo. It was a nicer ride most of the time.
Right, right.
It didn't have to be on.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I, like anything else, you got to stay away from toxic people, because all they're going to do is bring you down. They
Yeah,
don't bring themselves down; they bring others down,
yeah, they seem to get
and
energized by it.
yeah, and it's sad.
Yeah, yeah, I don't like it. And heck, at this point in my life, I can pick and choose what I want to do, and so you you do that. You go, oh yeah, I love these people. I'm going to work with them. They're incredible. So yeah, especially in this age of where it is now, you've got your pot of people that you love to work with, like Lana, Eric, Mark, Tully Winfield, Renee, um, people that I don't know in England. I really look forward. Maybe one day I'll get over there again. I used to get to tour over there a bit and haven't in a long time. Don't see about it in the foreseeable future, but you never know. Like I say, stuff out of the blue. I would really like to meet them. They are so capable, so nice, so good at what they do. Pleasure to work with. I think they're calling the band Ghost of Flip. I don't know. I'll keep you posted when it comes out, but it'll be one of those albums that I will keep on my rotation.
There you go. I look forward to that, and anything else that comes your way.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you giving me this time, Ron. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. And thank you, for giving me your time. And because I mean,
Anytime.
there's
I'm right here in my submarine. Oh, here, I wake up here, I go to bed here. My wife is,
Hey,
"It's so tiny." I go, it's okay. Just for a little bit now. We'll get back up on the lake. And we love it. She was first afraid of, well, there's going to be another fire. And I said, yes, but this time we'll have a lot better insurance. And the land is cleared already. So we're good for a couple of years. There's nothing to burn now. And then by then, all the new builds have to have fire extinguishers and certain fireproofing, so we'll be much more safer.
Good, good. But most of all, that you guys are safe.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
that's the ultimate important
All
thing.
pets, wife, pets, and important gear made it out with a fire on our heels. We made it out all right.
That's
Plenty of time. Yeah, my fear is always like you see on the sci-fi movies when the monster attacks and everybody's trying to leave and there's only one road and the cars are backed up and everybody's screaming. I don't want to be that car. So as soon as I
no,
see
I don't
fire
believe.
going, okay, let's pack the bags and be ready to go.
Yeah,
Get smarter with each time. I did lose a car. Had I thought about it enough, I mean, there were more cars than there were drivers. So I thought, I could have parked one of the cars down by the lake and then it wouldn't have burnt. But, when you see the fire coming down the hill, you just get in the car and go.
right. All right, Don. Well, it was really a pleasure talking with you,
Fine. That was
and
a lot of fun. Please, anytime, give me a call. I'll be back.
okay. All right. Well, thank you again.
Sure. And I'll keep you posted as albums come out. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Make
All
sure
right. Well, thank you very much.
you're welcome. You have a great day, and I will watch this again on YouTube, huh?
Yes, you will. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, another question. Oh,
Sure.
now I can see me. I can see the lights changed in my room here. How do I hang up?
There's an end button down in the corner, in the right-hand corner.
Let's see. I oh, let me move it over. Oh,
There we go.
right where it says leave. Okay.
All right.
Good one.
Okay.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. You be well. Have a good
You
weekend.
too. You
All right.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye all.